Nothing much really. It's just more of a case where, granted that no one's on, so I'm glad. But I'm going to talk a little bit about Doge per se. Not Doge. I mean, there's good things about it and there's bad things about it. Quite honestly, I just figured to put it on my phone. Basically, I could do it on my, you know, with the what's it called microphone, but I chose not to. That's also a little bit of laziness. But seeing all the stuff that's going on with Doge, I mean, look, I'm not going to say it's wrong. I mean, I think it's good that they're looking at all this stuff and trying to figure out like what's going on with the money, where's half the money going, like all the misuse of the money that's going to all these agencies and whatnot, what's funding essentially. I mean, look, I get it with the USAID. Basically, it's more of a case where like, yeah, there are certain things that didn't need to go, but there are certain things that shouldn't have gone as well too. Let's be honest. But I guess it's more of a case where like seeing the I don't want to say conference, but more so where Elon was in the Oval Office with Trump doing his executive order, and he was taking questions. And one of the rare things that I think you'll see is he was genuinely called out on some of his inconsistencies and false statements, and he openly admitted, like, yeah, he was wrong and he knew it. And he says he's probably going to make more wrong statements as well too, and like he's hoping to be called out on it. I mean, it's very rare for someone to actually say that from a political standpoint. But at the same time, Elon Musk is not a politician. He is basically someone that was never elected to do this. But so like he has no repercussions from that perspective. And that's why he's like, all right, yeah, whatever, call me out on that. But it'd be nice to see and nice to see an actual politician openly admit that he was wrong and like like yeah he goofed and like like he wants to be called out on that. But in any case, I can see what he's trying to do. Like, yeah, the fact that he's got a bunch of kids, like 19 to 22-year-olds, basically going through all this stuff. I don't know where that warrants that kind of things. I mean, I can understand it from a perspective of like, actual developers or software engineers and whatnot, but it's more so the fact that they can go through each system and can, it's helped decipher it very quickly, like, writing pretty much SQL. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Like, SQL or Python statements that go through all the data and cipher all through the data. That's one of the things where, that's why he's got these developers going through it versus forensic accountants. Yeah, it would be good if you had forensic accountants going through this as well too. But for them to go through the system, they're going to want papers and such, and then they're going to need to like have access to the systems. And even if they have access to the systems, they need to know what it is, and they'll ask other people. And the people that wrote the system, they'll probably come up with some BS workaround basically to show that it's justified. Whereas, if you go in with an engineer, like, they'll basically go in and try to write, I'm pretty sure it's just pretty straight up SQL statements to go through the data and, analyze the data at that point. And like, right, using R, Python, whatever it may be, to basically come up with some analysis as well too. But the one thing that's little surprising is the fact that you're using these kids to also kind of be judges to people that are lifers. And when I'm talking lifers, like these are people that have been in the government system for almost 40 years, 50 years. It's pretty much been their life. And they have to justify themselves to these kids that are like outsiders. And like their livelihood is in their hands. That's a little questionable at that point. Honestly, it's more so to the point like I can understand if they gotta answer to some members of the staff of the president, but to these kids, I don't think so. That's not a justification. I mean, the other aspect is, I mean, it reminds me of the case of what's it called, Office Space, where you have Michael, like all these people basically trying to justify their positions to the two guys, to the two Bobs, and basically it's almost reminiscent of that from that perspective. Except you're justifying it to a bunch of kids, and whether they should do it or not, or they should have the ability to do that, I don't think so. But honestly, it's a case if they find some inconsistencies, yeah, then you call out people on that, and it's like, hey, what's the issue? Why is like a contractor for this? Yeah, why is this contract going out to this vendor at 20% over what it should be? Basically, when if you go to another vendor, it's like probably 30% cheaper than what it should be at market value. So I mean, that's a question. Like like they're questioning that. I can understand them questioning that. That makes absolute sense. And you're calling them that out and trying to find out trying to investigate from that perspective. Cutting people or trimming out the fat, that's always going to be the case in business, and I could see that happening in government. Look, let's be honest. When Musk came and bought Twitter, and of course renaming it to X, when he bought Twitter, he cut 10,000 people to basically about just under 2,000, I think, right now, or maybe 3,000. He was coming at the fat. Everyone thought Twitter was gonna, go under. Yeah, it definitely lost a lot of people, but look at it now. It's like not as strong as it used to be, but it's still running. Let's be honest, it's still running. The only reason why it's not as many people as it was before is the reason why, as far as daily active users, is basically because the fact that Musk's policy of like, letting it be free speech and like letting all the trolls back in and letting all the hate come back to it with no moderation or moderators. I mean, long term, we'll see what happens with that. I mean, honestly, maybe it is kind of crowdsourced in a way. He's letting crowdsourcing happen, basically, which was what it was back in the day. Da, 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 da.